One, I want to talk about Luca's motivations and some comparisons with other protocols that have launched recently. Things like Hyperliquid, things like Magic Eden. I know those things are not comparable with Pengu, but I'm talking about the style of launch and what Pudgy Penguins might be attempting to do. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about entry prices, buying, holding, selling, like what our price points might be for those different things, and then like what the upside is. What are we targeting? We'll kind of come towards that with some justifications. So to you, Rahim, first, what do you think about the motivations here, and what is the potential?
This brings up a conversation that I had with Murad last week on a panel, and he said something very interesting, which he was like, I'm saying this at a Bitcoin conference. It's probably like sacrilegious to say it, but I want people to think about it. And he was talking about cross chain liquidity. And he used the example of pups, of how they launched on Solana and they ended up like bridging to Bitcoin and they ended up like doing really well. And he was just talking about that Solana is going to do that a lot for Bitcoin ecosystem and other chains. And I've been constantly thinking a lot about that. And of course, we don't have like a lot of details of how Pengu, what role it plays with Abstract, with Pudgy, because it's launched as a meme coin. But like he was talking about like the toys ecosystem comes out on Abstract. So I was just like thinking, if tomorrow, let's say they announce that, okay, instead of having like regular ETH TVL or a USDC TVL or whatever, you have to bridge. Again, this is all speculation. So again, just
Yep.
my random thoughts. But I was like, if I were Luca, it's not crazy to imagine that how do you get liquidity on a different chain is you ask everyone to bridge their Pengu on Abstract, you end up getting an allocation for their new ecosystem. And I think that completely changes the game. You obviously have like, I think you'll have a cross chain liquidity there. So I think that's kind of like very interesting to look at.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you've got one eye on Abstract as being another significant driver, and kind of thinking that this Pengu, although it might be on Solana for the moment, that will have the potential to move
Mhm.
across. I
I
like it.
mean, that's what would make sense to me if you look at like Ape Chain and like how they haven't had like really liquidity on meme coin side of things, or like other than like NFTs, they just don't have that much liquidity. I know we were talking about this on the timeline yesterday, the loans and how they are being leveraged on Blur. So if you look at the numbers, I was looking them right before the show. I remember there were about 400 Pudgies that were loaned when Bored Apes were pumping and Pudgies wasn't pumping. This is what, like 10 days ago or so. And right now there are only 206 leveraged loans, so they've gone down significantly. And the amount of listings that are there is also at an all-time low in the last like 10 days at least. Because I've been like leverage trading NFTs for a while. So I think I have a feeling people are pricing in this idea that okay, Pudgies are going to play a bigger role in Abstract, and I feel like they might not end up dumping as much as people are expecting them to dump.
Hmm. Okay. I think that's interesting. I'm going to share. You mentioned the lending market. I wrote this tweet a couple of days ago, which I think people found interesting about the lending data. I said the Penguin lending data tells a story. I don't know if this is correct, by the way, but this is just an idea I was playing with. I've always thought that there are truths to be found in the loan book of NFT collections. There are hardly any borrow amounts which exceed 18 to 19 ETH. Lenders are unwilling to provide more than that. It means that the market is pricing the airdrop at around 15 ETH at the moment, and or the market believes there could be a pullback to around 20 ETH post Pengu claim. If it believed otherwise, it would be comfortable to lend higher. So what you can see if you're looking at the screen is the kind of lending chart, all of the green dots. I'm going to try my best to explain this to for people who are not watching. All of the green dots are like loans which are currently made and that have a lender who has met that borrow amount. And then you see this like big gap between around 20 ETH and the current ETH of the current floor price of 31 ETH. This was a shot from a couple of days ago, so it's actually 34 ETH floor. But if I go to the current chart here, you can see the same thing basically exists. There's loads of loans made around 20 ETH and beneath, but almost nothing in this big range between 20 ETH to 30 ETH. So I'm wondering whether that might mean that is the expected gap, or that is what the airdrop's being priced at, because when people claim and the inevitable sell pressure happens, lenders don't want to get caught in that, right? They don't want to get caught with their loan to value too high, because it means that they'll go underwater and then not be able to recover the total of the amount that they've lent. So that was an idea I had. Legendary, I wonder what you think on that concept. I don't know if it's necessarily correct, but it's interesting because I watched the loan market quite a lot. And in fact, I might just look at another one. Typically, there's not such a big gap and people are slightly more risk on. So if we just look at a random other collection at the moment, if we look at Bored Apes, for example, and you look at yeah, this is perfect, right? So what you can see here for the people who are watching in, and I'll describe it for people who are just listening, you've got the floor price of 18.6 ETH, but there are people happily lending, albeit at a high interest rate, at like 16 ETH. And this is far more typical. You've got a bunch lending at 16 ETH, albeit at a high interest rate. You've got a bunch at 15, 14, 12. And so that's like almost 80 to 90% loan to values. And yes, there are some of those on the Penguin market, but very, very few. And then there's this huge gap. So what is happening in the market there, I think, is demonstrating the perceived value of the airdrop. Legendary, your thoughts on that? And then I'll ask you about something else.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The only thing that I would add to it is that it's also pre-TGE speculation, because ultimately if you borrow or if you basically leverage by Pudgy Penguins right now, it's kind of like a call option on the PENGU token, because if you want to claim PENGU with those Pudgy Penguins, you would need to pay off the loan. So by securing at that price level, which someone did, I think, with $2.5 million, you then have the option to pay off all loans if you like the token price action on the Pudgy Penguins, on the PENGU side of things, and then go on and claim for all of those PENGUs, which if the token price were say to go above $5 billion or $6 billion, whatever, then that might be such a bullish sign that there is no dump even. And then obviously we'll have people trying to snipe Pudgy Penguins, etc. But I think this additional interesting concept of using the loan market or the lending market for NFTs for Pudgy Penguins as an option market to have pre-TG price speculation is significant, because we've said it with whales market all the time. There's not enough volume in there. Like the prices are fluctuating like crazy. I did this daily thing and I saw PENGU move from 4 cents to 8 cents. At one point, it was like at 30 cents. It was so ridiculous I didn't even want to post it to not make people think, because those posts got like 150K views, that Pudgy Penguins is going to go to a $20 billion FTV and flip every single thing in existence. But if you want to speculate on that with more volume, this is where you go to the NFT lending market. And this is why I think this was a very helpful and significant analysis to look at.
Okay, quick final point on that, because I want to talk about comparisons and styles of launches, as well as getting into our own discussion. We've only got 10 minutes left. I just caught a question from Cap in the comments on Twitter about the Lil Pudgies and whether I could look at the live loan book for that. Sorry, guys, if you're holding a Lil Pudgy, the loan book is telling a significantly worse story. And I'm just communicating to you what I'm seeing in the book. What you can see here is a bunch of green dots as usual, which are loans made. You know, there are people happily holding their loans at around 2 ETH. The floor price is currently around 3.8. But what you can see in the kind of top right-hand corner is a bunch of loans that are now outstanding, as in the lender has cancelled them, and there has yet to be another lender to come in and enter into that loan. So there are a lot here between 2.7 ETH and 3.7 ETH, which have yet to find a lender, and they're already towards the end of their expiration date. I.e., if no one comes in, they're going to get liquidated. So there's a bunch here that are going to get liquidated in 1 hour, 4 hours, 6 hours, 11 hours, unless two things that can happen that can save this. One, you can have a bunch of lenders to come and step in, or the token comes out. Oh, in fact, if the token comes out and it's so good, then maybe the price pumps away and then someone comes in to step into lend, because the loan to value then becomes more attractive. So those are the two ways out of it for Lil Pudgy holders. Wanted to share that. So you know what's going on the lending side. I think it's pretty important to take a look there. But look, I want to keep the conversation moving because we've only got another 10 minutes or so. We've seen a bunch of launches, or two different types of launches happen recently. One, you have the high FDV and then like slow bleed. You know, you really impress people, you hit the timeline, everyone's super happy. Something like Movement Labs came out at more than 10 bill recently, and I think it dipped down to as low as 6 or 7. I'm not sure where it is now. Had Magic Eden come out at 5, went as high as 8, kind of dipped down also to around 3 to 4. And then alternative, you've got something like Hyperliquid, started super, super low, and then has just been bid up aggressively over time. Legendary, what do you think here? Is there, again, we have no idea. What do you think would be good here? To start low and just get bid up high, or to start high, impress everyone, have that, and then everyone's kind of happy, but you know, people will inevitably take profits then?
I think probably the second option of not just going up and to the right, of having a bit of a dump and correction of people wanting to take profits on that, which is, you know, a very, very fair thing to do, and not having this lingering expectation, when will people take profits. But also I'm saying this and I'm acknowledging that this is the hype situation, and the hype chart is just basically not dumping. It's just going up and up and up. And everyone like myself who's been waiting to buy hype on a dump is just getting laughed at by this ridiculous chart. And again, I said the only entry I found was via the meme side of things. So ultimately, I know it's a non-answer, but maybe it doesn't really even matter for the chart if it's going to have an initial retrace and then go up, or if it just keeps going up. Personally, I like the airdrop pattern more, where things go down and then go up again. But I don't know if it even matters with the launch today, to be honest.
Okay. I think that's fair. By the way, you're talking about hype waiting for a dump, but hype is dumping right now to 26.4. I don't know if that counts as a dump, because it was probably the price that it was yesterday, but it had gone up to 28 or 29. And so this is your chance if you want to get some.
It's the only discount you get, huh?
Yeah, that may be the best discount you get.
Taking
Ryan,
the other end of what Legendary was saying, and again, this is just for people to come up with their own ideas and thoughts and listen to both sides of it. I think like one of the things we've never seen in this space is like how together the Solana ecosystem has come towards this launch. You've had like Phantom and Magic Eden, and you had like all these. CoinGecko yesterday ended up putting out that Pudgy Penguin. The Bitwise investment CEO manager, he put out that PFP. I just feel like I haven't seen this goes down, and we won't get deep into it. But I remember Brad was talking about it on his Twitter of how ETH has become like this bureaucratic dinosaur, how Bitcoin is. And he was talking about that happens with adoption and decentralization. And I was like, I agree, because someone was arguing with him, and I was like, I actually compared it to like let's compare Dubai to New York. Like Dubai is like a new city. You have less old baggage that you're carrying. A lot more ecosystems are connected to each other. So I'm like, if I am Solana, if I am like, you know, from all these institutions, you had like the Solana founder has its PFP. Like this is your catalyst moment for Solana to like really come in front of the eyes. We've been talking about, you still go on the streets. People know about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Doge. People, if you guys remember that like video that Choosenik had posted ages ago of asking people on the street. Again, this is also a year ago or so. But I think like just looking at it, the only way I'm taking the other side of the argument also is we just don't have the lens of what this institutional capital could be. You have CoinGecko, which is considered like the next two after Coin Market Cap, right? And they're based out of Malaysia. And we were speaking about this with Bcheck right before this. Like I've met some of the most insane holders, who are these like older people from family offices, hedge funds in their 40s and 50s, don't hold any NFTs, hold Pudgy Penguin. And this is especially from the Malaysian community, because I know Aaron, Foxy, they've played like a major role in growing that DeFi ecosystem out. So I'm also like, yeah, I think it's a tricky thing to take both sides of it. You obviously have degens who would want to take profits, but then you also have this insane institutional capital that could come.